Discover the latest health tips, expert advice, and inspiring stories. This is the Health Channel Podcast. Your journey to better health starts now.
Summer is almost here, and with it brings endless opportunities for fun in the sun. But hold on to your sunblock and your bug spray, because while we're excited to jump into the pool and head over to backyard barbecues, safety is still important. On the next episode of Ask the Doc, I'm going to discuss the essentials of skincare, prevention in kids, and I'm going to talk about topics such as bug bites, sunburn, rashes, and everything in between. So see what happens next on Ask the Doc. Welcome to Ask the Doc. I'm Dr. Scarlet Constant. This is a show where we encourage you viewers to send in your questions so that I can answer them now in real time. Here comes our first question right now from Juan Pablo. Dr. Constant, I have a question, but it's kind of a two-parter, if that's okay. Last summer was something of a nightmare. Even after slathering on tons of sunscreen on my son, he had a pretty painful case of sunburn. What's the best way to treat it? I've heard that some people put butter on it. Does that really help? And to add insult to injury, his twin sister had an allergic reaction to the same sunscreen. That said, do you have any suggestions for safe sunscreens? Wow, Juan Pablo, that's a lot. That sounds like a pretty eventful summer for you. So the first part of the question, you were asking about sunscreens that I recommend. I think the best thing to do is put on a sunscreen on your child that has a minimum of an SPF 30. Now, there's a difference between mineral sunscreen and chemical sunscreen. And the chemical sunscreens are usually the creams that are a little bit thinner. They go on a little nicer. A lot of people favor them because it doesn't have that sticky factor that kids really don't like. But the mineral sunscreens, which are a bit thicker because they do have titanium and zinc oxide, are more protective. And you want to definitely choose one of those. And an SPF 30 or higher is best for your child. Usually they also have emollient factors to moisturize the skin. And a lot of the times they are hypoallergenic. If you do have a child that tends to have sensitive skin or eruptant allergies, then you want to take a look at some of the products that have more of the zinc oxide component than anything else. But usually, for the most part, a lot of the sunscreens out there are healthy and fine for the skin. Sometimes what happens is we'll see in kids, they'll have an allergic reaction if they're going to the beach, they'll have an allergic reaction with the sunscreen and the sand or the sunscreen and the salt in the water rather than actually just the sunscreen itself. So that's just something for your daughter. And as far as choosing the sunscreens, you definitely want to find a mineral sunscreen with a minimum of SPF 30. Now, I believe the second part of your question was just a couple tips about sunburn. So with sunburn, at the moment that it does happen, you want to remove the child from the sun, of course. You want to bring them into a cool place or a shaded place. You want to put some cool compresses on the skin. If the burn is significant enough to where it does feel very hot or uncomfortable, you can put some cool compresses. But as far as treating the sunburn throughout the week, you want to make sure that you're rehydrating your child, making sure that they're drinking lots of fluids, that they're adding emollients to their skin. Aloe gel is great because it has anti-inflammatory properties, and it also is a bit of just like a soothing feeling because it is a gel. So you want to apply aloe, and then you want to moisturize the skin with your regular emollient, hopefully an emollient that has ceramides. If the pain is so severe that your child is complaining day of or a few days after the sunburn, you can absolutely give an analgesic like Tylenol or Motrin, but that's usually in a very severe case of sunburn. I hope that this helps, and hopefully we could prevent this from happening again, Juan Pablo. Let's see. We think we have our next question coming in. This question comes from Elizabeth. Hi, doctor. My husband and I had a baby girl about 3 months ago. We're going to visit friends who live on the beach, but I'm not sure what kind of sunscreen to use on an infant, or if I should even apply sunscreen to our daughter. But as parents living in South Florida, we have to do something, right? Absolutely. That's a great question, Elizabeth. And you do need to do something. So with infants, of course, we recommend barrier sun protection, meaning sun protective wear. Babies should almost always have a hat on, a nice big hat that has a brim that's going to cover the ears and the back of the neck. So most importantly, you want your baby to have a hat. And then now there are a lot of sun protective bathing suits like shirts or shorts that the babies can wear. So the shirts are great. They have SPF 50 to protect from the sun. And then any sun exposed areas such as the thighs, the feet, and even the face, because there still is some direct sunlight that your infant will be exposed to, you absolutely do want to put sunscreen. And so you ask, what type of sunscreen? Well, they do have infant sunblock for ages less than 2. And that's predominantly going to have the zinc oxide component in it, and that's just to repel the sun. So you can find Honest Baby, California Baby, quite a few other companies have infant sunblock that you would absolutely apply to their sun exposed areas. I hope that you guys have fun on your beach vacation. See if we have any more questions coming in. Oh, well, here's a question from Rashid. Hi, Dr. Constant. I know that I should know this already, but what does the SPF rating really mean? Is SPF 70 really that much better than SPF 50? And is an SPF of 10 really going to protect anything? And lastly, what about using baby oil on babies? Not as sunscreen, obviously, but as moisturizer. Sorry, my wife just asked me to sneak in that last question. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so SPF, that's a great question because now there's 30, 50, 70, I think I've even seen 100 at the store. And so it is an interesting question. And the real answer is SPF 15, let's start with 15 because that's the lowest one. And that's, I feel, what we were exposed to years ago. That's going to repel about 93% of the UVB rays. So that means that about 7% of the UVB will come and be absorbed in the skin. So SPF 30 was created, and that's going to repel about 97%. Which is much better than SPF 15. Of course, both are protective. And if you only have one, you want to use what you have. So you're absolutely protecting yourself, but SPF 30 is going to protect you that much more and only allow 3% of the UVB rays. Now, when you move up to SPF 50, the change is not so drastic. So now this is repelling about 98% of the UVB as opposed to the 97%. So is SPF 50 better? Of course, but marginally. So my advice to you is get what's available and protect yourself the best way that you can. Here comes a question in from Facebook. This is a question from Annabeth. Hi, Dr. Constant. My question is not necessarily sun related, but it is skin related. My daughter is 12 now, and like many girls her age on social media, we limit her time online, but she's still the perfect audience for the millions of influencers out there promoting beauty products. Now that she's a tween, she wants to use her allowance to buy some of these products. I'd love your thoughts on this. Well, Annabeth, this is very relevant because we've seen a huge increase in skincare routines, as you said, because a lot of the tweens are watching TikTok videos on skincare and regular regimens. So I think that this is, it's twofold. This is great. I think it's wonderful that young kids already understand that skincare is important and that they should start adopting a regimen that they're using every day so that we're not trying to play catch up as adults and get rid of the wrinkles and the lines and moisturize for the first time. So I think it's amazing, and kudos to your daughter for actually taking this seriously. But I will warn you about the products that are available to teenagers. So at this point, at 12 years of age, if she is prepubescent, meaning she doesn't have acne breakouts or anything like that. And you want to make sure that she's buying products that contain ceramides and that will moisturize the skin, because the most important thing right now is for her to moisturize. You want to make sure she's getting a facial wash that doesn't really have any strong products, really just has maybe a benzoyl peroxide if needed, but if not, just a gentle face wash to use in the morning, at night. And then after her face wash, she would just moisturize. And finally, you want to make sure that she finds a sunblock that has SPF 30 or higher. And that's a mineral sunblock, of course, and she can apply that to her face every day, especially for those of us that are here in South Florida. You should have sunblock on your face every single day, whether or not you're going to the pool or beach, just your regular outings, you would need sunblock. So I think that those things are very important. What she should look out for is she shouldn't buy any products that have strong exfoliating properties. At this age, the tweens don't need to exfoliate their skin. They also don't need anti-aging creams, hyaluronic acids, and other types of exfoliating acids that are known to kind of regenerate the skin cells or slop off the old skin. That's usually for the older ages, but in the tween population, you really don't need anything that strong, just a gentle wash, moisturizer, and sunblock. So let her know that she's doing a great job and keep up the good work, but just stay away from products that are strong for her young skin. So now we have another question coming in from Lila. Hi, doctor. I went to a sleepaway camp as a young girl and remember getting bitten up by mosquitoes and black flies every day. And I even got stung by a bee once. Back then, we used bug spray, which I think was toxic, and applied calamine lotion to the bites and stings. My question is this: what are the best ways to treat bites and stings these days, and how do I make my kids less of a target for mosquitoes and ticks? Well, that's a great question, Lila, especially here in Miami. We all know that once July comes and the rainy season is here, we are plagued with mosquitoes. So what you want to do is make sure that you spray your kids with bug spray, and the bug spray should definitely contain DEET. DEET is very important to repel the mosquitoes, and picaridin is also important because it's a mosquito and tick repellent. So you want to spray that, and actually, if they're going to be exposed for long periods of time or out camping or hiking somewhere outside of Miami where it is a tick endemic area, you want to make sure that they're reapplying their sprays. And I wouldn't worry about toxicity because this is safe for the skin, and it has been FDA approved and tested for children above the age of 2 and even children under the age of 2 down to 6 months of age. They can use these sprays and creams to protect against ticks and mosquitoes. Also, it's really important to wear protective wear, long pants. I know that it's really hot and sometimes people don't want to wear long sleeve shirts, but at least wearing pants and socks to protect the skin, especially in a tick endemic area, you certainly want to wear something that's going to protect your skin aside from the sprays. Now, if it's inevitable, you get bitten anyway, especially by the mosquitoes. When you have a couple of mosquito bites, especially the ones that swell and they get pretty big and inflamed, and especially the little kids, they scratch them a lot and they might even cut them open. You want to stop the itching right away because you just don't want the kids to scratch too much and expose their skin to secondary infections. So I always recommend putting cortisone 10 on the actual bite. The cortisone is going to decrease the inflammation of the bite, and it's actually going to stop the itching, and that's going to help prevent them from the scratching all night long. If the insect bite is that is really bad and swollen and red and is even just causing a lot of erythema around the area, you could give oral Benadryl if needed, but that's a last resort. That's for people that have almost like a mild allergic reaction to the actual bite. Daniela. Doctor, my toddler son has pretty normal skin. I mean, I guess it's normal, but the nurse practitioner at our pediatrician's office recently said something about establishing a daily skincare routine for Isaac. What would that entail and why? Well, that's a great question, Daniela. I'll start with a little biology lesson. The largest organ in our body is the skin. The skin is one of the largest, and it's one of the most important organs that we have because it protects us from infection, from invasion from outside organisms. It protects us from dehydration. The overall health of the skin is going to keep us healthy overall. So yes, you do need to establish a skincare routine for your child, and you need to do it as early as possible because, as I mentioned before, when you're later on in life, you don't want to play catch up. You want to keep the skin healthy as early as possible and prevent diseases of the skin, dermatitis, which is inflammation of the skin. You want to prevent secondary bacterial infections and so forth. So it is very important to start this regimen. And what does that include? Honestly, in a young child, it's not terribly complicated. You want to use a non-odorous soap or non-perfumed soap that is gentle on the skin, that doesn't have any chemicals, something like Dove or CeraVe, Cetaphil, La Roche-Posay. There are a myriad of products out there that you'd want to use as a wash. You want to bathe your child in warm water, not hot water. As much as we love hot showers, hot water dries out your skin and it does mildly irritate your skin. So you want to bathe your child with warm, comfortably warm water. and then pat them dry rather than rubbing down the skin dry as possible. You really want to pat them dry so the skin is still a little bit damp. And while the skin is still damp, then you would apply your emollient, which is going to be a cream better than a lotion, a cream that has ceramides. And you want to put that all over the skin and repeat that routine every evening before they go to bed. So here's our next question. Zahara. We have a question from Zahara. Hi, Dr. Constant. My friend Alicia was over yesterday and she saw my daughter scratching her arm. She was scratching it pretty good and it looked kind of nasty. I thought it was a rash that would go away by itself, but Alicia thinks it's eczema or maybe psoriasis. Doctor, forgive my ignorance, but what are eczema and psoriasis and how can I help my daughter get rid of it for them? Okay. Well, so psoriasis is actually a chronic medical condition, and it is actually an immune disease where the skin cells proliferate, meaning they multiply at a rapid rate, causing thick scales that tend to be large, itchy, and gray. And it's a chronic condition, and usually it's diagnosed by a dermatologist. It's usually a genetic disease, and you'll see it in other family members, but this is something that is diagnosed by a dermatologist, and you will be treated by the dermatologist with long-term therapy. Eczema is an inflammatory disease, and it's more episodic, and it usually is associated with allergies and asthma, and it's a type of dermatitis. So this is inflammation of the skin that's going to cause a little bit of redness, itchiness, and they'll happen in little patches around the body. And that's a little more episodic and easily treated because you can actually use ointments at the time of an eruption to suppress the eczematous lesions. But if your child is complaining or scratching a lot or seems to have dry skin, absolutely bring her to her pediatrician to have her skin evaluated so that a proper diagnosis can be made, and then you'll know exactly how to treat her. So let's just go through this again, because I know that we discussed a lot about skincare and bug bites and everything in between. So let's recap. First, we'll talk about the treatment of sunburn. So once you see the telltale signs of a sunburn, make sure you get your child out of the sun right away. Get them to a cool place, a shaded area, or hopefully indoors, and we'll have to limit their sun exposure after that. Next, you want to make sure that your child takes a nice, cool, not cold, but a cool shower or a bath. And then you'll apply the cool compresses on their skin. And this is going to decrease the inflammation. It's going to help soothe the skin from the burn. And it's going to help kind of just release some of the heat from the skin. Next, you're going to want to make sure that you're giving extra fluids for the next 2 to 3 days. Remember, at this point, your child is most likely mildly dehydrated, not only from being exposed to the sun, but then furthermore from being burnt, receiving a sunburn. So you absolutely want to give extra fluids and almost hyperhydrate for the next 2 to 3 days. And you could use water, Pedialyte, Gatorade, or any other type of electrolyte type of drink that you have. Next, you want to make sure that you give your child an analgesic such as ibuprofen or acetaminophen, Motrin or Tylenol, and that's just needed if they need to relieve the pain. A lot of times the first 24 to 48 hours, the child will feel a lot of pain and burning, and this will calm them down, and it'll also ease some of the anxiety associated with the burn. Next, you want to use moisturizing creams or an aloe gel. So the aloe gel is going to be more of an anti-inflammatory effect and a soothing response. But as far as moisturizing, you're going to want to use a cream that has ceramides. And so you could put the aloe and then you can go ahead and put the moisturizer afterwards. The next thing you want to do is make sure that the next time they do go outside, that the sunburn areas are fully covered. Until they're healed, you certainly do not want to expose them to sun again. Remember, sunburn is 1st or 2nd degree burn. So you absolutely want to put on clothes and protection that will cover it completely before receiving exposure again. Something to be taken very seriously because sunburn can be complicated in the future. Next, please remember never to use butter. Butter on a sunburn is not helpful. It's actually the contrary. The butter, the oil in the butter will actually lock in some of the heat and sometimes even make the burn hurt or sting even more than it did before. So you certainly never want to put butter on a sunburn. I hope that this helps, and I hope that you guys stay safe this summer. So the next recap, we have a question here from Deirdre. Dr. Constant, we took the kids to the beach last weekend, and my husband noticed that our 6-year-old had what looked like a cluster of tiny red and purplish bumps or blisters on the back of his neck. My husband thinks it's either a heat rash or an allergic reaction to the life jacket we made him wear when he's near the water. What do you think? And what can we do for him before we hit the beach the next time? Well, I'm sorry that happened, Deirdre. It could be a lot of things. What you want to do is make sure that especially the back of the ears and the neck are protected from the sun. That's a very common spot to get sunburn. So really make sure that you're applying the sunblock 30 minutes before exposure to the sun. And then after you get in the water, you want to reapply the sunblock again, because a lot of times that gets washed away. You want to reapply sunblock, even if you're not in the water, at least 2 to 3 hours after being exposed to the sun. So that's most important, is to protect the back of the ears and the neck. Maybe even the next time he can wear a hat to protect him. Or like your husband suggested, it could just be an allergic reaction, not necessarily an allergic reaction, but an irritation, which we call contact dermatitis from the life jacket. That very well could have been the situation, at which point you'll know next time maybe to put something around the neck before putting the life jacket on. But either way, I would suggest that you see your pediatrician and have them take a look at it and just to determine exactly what happened. Let's see if we have any other questions. And if not, okay, so let's recap eczema, because we definitely spoke about that, about the routine skincare. So remember, for kids, we want to have a routine skincare where we're cleansing the face, we're moisturizing by applying a very mild emollient, and we want to protect from the sun, even if it's a cloudy day. Please remember, UV comes through the clouds. Hope this helped everybody. Can't wait to see you next time on Ask the Doc. I'm Dr. Scarlet Constant.
Thank you for listening to the Health Channel podcast. We hope this information has been useful. However, please remember that only your doctor can advise you about what is best for you. Do not start, modify, or suspend treatment based on anything you have heard on this podcast. Please join us again soon.